Hey friends, Rob Gibson with the Cross Minister Group. Hey, in the past 3 weeks, Bob has been talking about the law of God that Galatians gives us. I want to look over and read it, where he says, "Bear one another's burdens, bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ." And Bob's been unpacking that, I think, in a really helpful way. If you've not watched those videos, I want to encourage you to look back at the past few weeks because it's really helpful. I want to go with maybe I don't want to say another aspect, or I just want to go a little deeper in one piece of it that strikes me, and that is reactionary behavior or reacting to or against something versus accepting or proactively moving in love towards it. So think of those two things. I can react against, or I can act in an accepting, compassionate, loving way towards something, even something that I don't care for, okay? Which is usually where bearing somebody's burdens or our reactions come from, right? Something is hitting us that we don't like, I don't like. And so Bob took us to Galatians, and I so appreciate that. What I personally become aware of over the past couple of weeks as I was processing that and just seeing how I react to things is oftentimes my reactions move me from a place of peace to a place of angst. That's a good way for me to know that I'm in a reactionary mode, is when my emotions are elevated, I feel I've got to move against something, or I feel something's coming against me that I've got to push on. Or I feel this sense of angst. Maybe overriding all this is a sense of angst or anxiety or a frustrated energy versus I'm at peace with what's going on. And so I want us to dig a little deeper into how we might press into living a more peaceful, proactive, or active towards one another in love, accepting the circumstances that we're being presented with. And not accepting does not mean affirming, okay? I'm not saying we affirm what's going on. If somebody is coming against you, or there's something going on that you're like, I'm reacting to this because this is wrong. When we talk about acceptance, we're not saying I affirm what's going on as much as say it's presently happening. It's in my reality of my circumstances. How do I live at peace with this? Because here's the thing. Several times in the New Testament we hear, be at peace with one another. So much as it depends on you, be at peace with one another. In Mark chapter 5, I think it is. No, maybe Mark chapter 9, verse 50. I should know this, but I'm just going to throw it out there. You can Google it and find it. I think it's 9:50, where Jesus says, hey, be salty and live at peace with one another. There's this sense of the saltiness is, you can have some reaction, some energy, and press into something that isn't, you don't want to affirm. So you can have that saltiness, but do that in a peaceful way. He says to the Thessalonians, be at peace. So much as it depends on you, be at peace with others, says it in Romans 12. And so what I want to think about, and I'm thinking about for me, is what came up for me is, what's the cost to me and the cost to others when I live in a reactionary way versus proactively pressing in love and accepting what's going on? And this is just part of my personality. It may resonate with you, and I think it does all of us. I've heard so many different stories, road rage, for example, driving down the road. Maybe you cut somebody off, maybe you didn't, maybe you don't even know why, but a guy flies around you and he gives you the number 1 sign, right? And you're like, oh, thanks, I'm number 1. You know what I'm talking about. And it's like, we can either go, well, I know for a lot of folks I talk to, oftentimes it's like, I'm going to come back at that if somebody has the nerve to do that to me. Well, that's one way to respond to it, is to react to it and think about this. A total stranger goes by, gives you the number 1 sign, and you're like, man, what the heck? That's one way to respond to it. What's the cost to you to react in that way? This is what I'm talking about. For me, when I become reactionary, there's an angst and there's an energy that disturbs an inner sense of peace and that's not really helpful for me. It's not the way I want to live. And so the other option is, here's what I'm driving towards, is to see that individual. Here, I'll give you another story, because maybe road rage and the number one sign doesn't resonate with you. So working with a man a couple of years ago, and he said every time his wife loads the dishwasher, he gets angry about it because she does it the wrong way. And I was scratching my head because I was like, really? I mean, I'm sure there is a right and a wrong way to load a dishwasher, but, it is just a dishwasher. There's got to be, something's going to happen to clean stuff within there. Maybe some of you are going, oh no, there's a right and a wrong way. But he said every time she would load it, he would get angry about it, and he would go behind her and reload it. Now, this wasn't an imbecile. This was a pretty successful, high-performing individual. And I was aware, and we were talking about that. I'm like, what does it cost you to do that? And he's like, nothing. It just takes a minute to unload that. But the reality is there's over something fairly simple, we're allowing a reactionary response that isn't particularly helpful to us. And so conversely, what would it look like for us to, whether it's the guy driving by giving us the one sign, or whatever it is in us that causes this angst and this reaction, for us to say, hey, what would it look like for me to hold space patiently for this other person? I don't affirm what they're doing. But like in the case of the complete stranger running by you on the road, giving you the number one sign, it's like, I don't even know what's going on. Now, maybe I do. Maybe it's like, oh, yeah, I pulled out in front of that guy and he's ticked about it. And, that's the way he's expressing himself versus saying, hey, buddy, you should have waited, okay, all that stuff going on. But what would it look like for me when something's going on in another, as Bob said, to bear that burden, to press into that reality, because it is our reality in the moment, with compassion. To be curious about what's the story driving this person, literally, if it's the guy on the road, to act this way. And I think for me, it's a transformational opportunity for me to think about, hey, what's happening inside of me, and why am I going to give this situation, this circumstance, so much power as to disturb my peace? Why am I reacting so strongly, would be my question to me, Does my response fit? Now, sometimes, of course, we're reacting because there's a great injustice, or there's danger, or the kids are about to run out in the street and be hurt. And so we're like, hey, boom, there's a big reaction. Stop! And we want to get them back because there's danger and there's harm. It's like, okay, that reaction fits the situation. To be angry and upset every time the dishwasher's loaded seems like, well, that's probably a disproportionate response. To really get disturbed and angry back and give that guy the number one sign back who's passed us, who's a complete stranger, it's like, that to me feels like we're giving too much power. My peace is being disturbed by something that doesn't really fit. There's an emotion that doesn't fit it. So here's the thing I would ask you is, if you sense the emotion, my response within is disturbing my peace and it's way up here compared to the circumstance. This takes a minute to reflect on, because usually our reactions are like that. But if it is, then maybe we do a heart check to ask ourselves this. Is this my head or is this my heart responding? Our head will respond from a standpoint of, am I safe? Is there fear in this situation? Our heads will justify ourselves. Our hearts will ask the question, what's the loving thing to do? Now, our heart can also say, that didn't feel loving to me and I want to back away from the relationship. But our heart is going to be the place that we lean into compassion and we lean into love. And so our head justifies, our heart can help us feel the relational appreciation or appropriateness of what's going on and the impact of our response. So if we do a heart check and a head check, we can say, okay, what's needed right now for a loving response and a value within this relationship? And then here's the other thing I want to ask you to do. Here's what I've learned. Is I need to ask myself in the midst of that reaction, what am I longing for? Why am I reacting this way? If you can imagine, just my reaction is grabbing onto something. What am I grabbing for? What's my holy desire behind my reaction? If it's the guy going by, it's like, I want to be respected and valued. I don't like being diminished or put down. Now, the reality is a complete stranger really doesn't have that power over me. Actually, nobody has that power over you or over me. But there's something going on within us that we're reacting to where we feel like some core essential need, our safety and our security, our love and our affection, the sense of dominion or power and control in our environment in a positive way has been taken from us. And here's the reality. Why is it that I would demand that from a complete stranger passing me on the road? Why would I demand that from something as menial as loading a dishwasher or whatever circumstance comes up for you? Why am I giving that power away to those around me horizontally when the reality is this? We have all those things already within us, behind us, before us, around us, because of Christ within and Christ for us and his love that we're never separated from. So why do I fight or react to others when I already have everything I need? Well, we do that because we're human beings and we're broken and sometimes we're reactionary. But I want to just encourage you to do a head check, a heart check, and think about when you feel, as I'm sharing, I have this angst within, and I'm thinking we're all human, so we probably felt it, this angst within that disturbs our peace and we react, versus realizing the circumstance of what's going on is not something I want to affirm, but it is my present reality. What does it look like for me to press in love and peacefully press into that? So if I know that what I need I already have from God, could that change? You know, he says, my peace I give you, my peace I leave with you. It's here for us. Can we live in peace towards one another, even when there's stuff going on that we're like, this doesn't feel right? But can I maintain that peace and then actively press in from the heart place in love towards others around me and bear that burden? Just a thought for you this Wednesday. Hope this encourages you and helps you continue to do your work of transformation and receive God's love. Peace.